I'm not going to pretend every retirement town in South Carolina lives up to the brochure. Most don't. I talked to a woman named Linda a few months back, 63 years old, drove down from Ohio with a U-Haul and a golden retriever, and she told me she almost turned around twice before she even crossed the state line. She didn't, and what she found surprised her. Some of these towns have hospitals smaller than your old high school. Some have property tax bills you'll read twice because you'll think there's a decimal point missing. One of them has more golf courses than gas stations. And the town at the very top of this list, the one Linda ended up choosing, doesn't even show up on most of those glossy, best places to retire rankings. But we'll get there. Not yet. If you're the kind of person who actually plans this stuff out instead of just hoping it works itself out, hit subscribe before we start, because this channel breaks down real numbers, not real estate ad copy. Let's start at number 12. Number 12 is Aiken. Picture wide dirt roads instead of pavement, horses being walked down the middle of a residential street, like that's just Tuesday. That's Aiken, a town built around equestrian culture since the 1800s, when wealthy northern families started wintering here for the mild climate. The dirt roads aren't quaint decoration. Aiken keeps them unpaved on purpose, specifically for horse traffic, and the whole town budgets around it. Housing here still runs well under South Carolina's rising averages, and the historic district gives you walkable restaurants and antique shops without a big city price tag. Here's the honest catch. Aiken is quiet, almost too quiet if you're used to city noise, and the nearest major hospital system means a drive, not a walk. Still, for a retiree chasing land, horses, and a slower clock, Aiken checks boxes most beach towns can't touch. Which brings us to a very different kind of quiet. Number 11 is Fountain Inn. Here's the number that matters. This rural upstate town regularly ranks among the cheapest places to live in the entire state, sitting well below a South Carolina average that already beats most of the country. That's not marketing language. That's a place where a fixed Social Security check stretches further than almost anywhere else on this list. Fountain Inn has a small museum, a performing arts center, and enough green space that you're never far from a park bench and some shade. In fairness, rural here means rural. You won't find late-night dining or a big hospital campus inside town limits. What you'll find is a mortgage payment that doesn't eat your retirement savings alive. Sometimes the best retirement town isn't the one with the most going on. It's the one that leaves you enough money to actually enjoy it. Number 10 should, on paper, be an afterthought. It's a small PD town most out-of-state retirees have never heard of, and yet Hartsville quietly outperforms towns 3 times its size. Median home prices here sit around $258,000, well below the statewide climb, and Carolina Pines Regional Medical Center sits right in town, not a 40-minute drive away, but right there when you need it. Retirees walk the botanical Kalmia Gardens in the morning and catch a show at the restored Center Theater at night. Byerly Park handles the grandkids when they visit. Small towns get written off as boring. Hartsville is proof that's lazy thinking. Number 9 is Seneca, and a retired nurse who moved here from Atlanta put it to me simply. I traded a 2-hour commute for a 5-minute drive to a lake I actually own a dock on. Seneca sits at the edge of Lake Keowee and Lake Hartwell in the foothills near Clemson, which means retirees get water access most coastal towns charge triple for. The pace is slower here. Neighbors know your name within a month, not a year. To be exact, Seneca isn't undiscovered anymore. Clemson's growth has pushed nearby prices up, but compared to lakefront property almost anywhere else in the southeast, it's still a bargain. Sit with that for a second. A lake house in the mountains for less than a condo near the coast. Number 8 is Rock Hill, just south of the state line from Charlotte. You feel the difference the second you cross into town. The pace drops, the traffic thins, but you're still 20 minutes from a major airport and a full metro hospital system. Rock Hill built a reputation on that exact trade-off, adding riverfront trails and a growing arts district without losing the small-town feel that pulled people here in the first place. Here's the honest catch, and it's a real one. Rock Hill's proximity to Charlotte means property values have climbed faster here than almost anywhere else on this list. It's not the bargain it was 5 years ago. Drop a comment if you've ever picked a smaller town on purpose just to stay close to a big one. I want to know where you landed. Number 7 is Abbeville, and the number that gets people's attention is this: over 250 years old, and still functioning as a genuine town center, not a historic district roped off for tourists. The Abbeville Opera House still puts on live performances on the same stage it opened with in 1908. The town square still runs on foot traffic, actual foot traffic, from people who live within walking distance, not day trippers. Housing costs here are some of the lowest of anywhere on this list. Low enough that a modest pension covers a mortgage payment most people twice the town's average income would sweat over. Abbeville isn't for everyone, and it shouldn't try to be. If you need a hospital inside city limits, or a big grocery chain 10 minutes away, keep looking. But if you want history you can actually live inside instead of visit, this is it. Number 6 should be too expensive for a retiree on a budget. Greenville has been named one of the fastest growing small cities in the South for years running, and growth like that usually prices retirees straight out. It hasn't. Not entirely. 15% of Greenville's population is 65 or older. That's roughly 1 in 7 people you pass on the street. And the city built its downtown specifically around walkability. The Reedy River Falls anchor it. A 22-mile trail connects neighborhoods to restaurants. Sales tax sits at just 6%, among the lowest anywhere in the state. Median home prices have climbed toward $410,000, so this isn't the bargain entry on the list. It's the entry for someone who wants an active, plugged-in retirement and is willing to pay upstate prices instead of coastal ones. Every entry on this list so far has traded something for something else. Greenville is where that trade gets expensive, and where a lot of people decide it's worth it anyway. Number 5 is Charleston, and a retired school teacher who moved here from New Jersey told me something I didn't expect. I moved for the history. I stayed because the poverty rate is lower than my old towns, and I actually noticed the difference. That's a real number, not a feeling. Charleston's poverty rate sits around 12%, among the lowest of any city on this list, and seniors make up over 16% of the population, meaning you're never short on people your own age doing the same cobblestone street walks you are. Here's the trade-off, and it's a big one. Median home prices sit above $550,000, and rent isn't far behind. Charleston is not the budget pick on this countdown. It never will be. But if history, culture, and a genuine sense of financial stability matter more to you than square footage per dollar, Charleston earns its reputation honestly. Number 4 is Summerville, and the first thing you notice walking downtown is the trees. Massive, moss-draped oaks arching clean over the main street, planted generations ago by people who never got to enjoy the shade themselves. Summerville built its whole identity on that kind of patience. Southern Heritage, a walkable historic district, a community built around front porches instead of privacy fences. It's close enough to Charleston to borrow the culture without paying full Charleston prices, though it's not exactly cheap either. Median home prices sit around $375,000. Still, that's a real step down from Charleston proper, and for a lot of retirees, that gap is the entire decision. Small town charm, big city access, and monthly rent that averages just over $1,400 instead of Charleston's higher number. You get the culture. You just don't pay Charleston's premium to get it. Number 3 is Myrtle Beach, and the numbers here do most of the talking. A cost of living index of 93.5, meaning everyday expenses run roughly 6.5% below the national average. Median rent around $1,100. Median home prices near $280,000. Monthly healthcare costs averaging about $420. Predictable enough to actually budget around instead of guess at. Then there's the Grand Strand itself. 60 miles of coastline from Little River down through Georgetown, and more than 60 golf courses packed into that stretch, which is why Myrtle Beach has become one of the biggest golf retirement markets in the entire country. In fairness, Myrtle Beach leans touristy in the summer months, and traffic on the main strip can test anyone's patience. But for coastal living at a price that doesn't require a second mortgage, it's hard to beat. Number 2 is Bluffton, and specifically the community built around it. Sun City Hilton Head, one of the largest active adult communities in the entire country. This isn't a retirement town by accident. It was built for it, block by block, with amenities designed around people who are done raising kids and ready to actually use their time. Boating, golf, easy access to Savannah's airport, Lowcountry landscape on every side. South Carolina's tax structure sweetens the deal here more than almost anywhere else on this list. Retirees 65 and older can deduct $15,000 per person in retirement income before state tax even applies, and Social Security isn't taxed at all. That's roughly a couple keeping an extra $30,000 of retirement income untouched by the state every single year, just for being here. One spot left, and it's not the one most rankings put at number one. Number one is Beaufort, and I want to go back to Linda for a second, the woman from Ohio, the U-Haul, the Golden Retriever. She almost drove past it. Beaufort doesn't have Charleston's name recognition or Hilton Head's golf resort polish. What it has is centuries of history sitting quietly on the sea islands, Spanish moss draped over live oaks along Bay Street, and a pace of life that isn't performing for anyone. It also has something most of this list doesn't: a serious military retiree community, thanks to Paris Island and the Marine Corps Air Station just minutes away, which means TRICARE access, commissary privileges, and a built-in network of people who've already done the hardest part of settling somewhere new. Beaufort Memorial Hospital punches above its weight for a town of roughly 14,000 people, and property taxes, thanks to that statewide homestead exemption for retirees, can land under $1,000 a year on a home worth $300,000. Linda didn't pick Beaufort because a website told her to. She picked it because she drove through downtown once, parked the car, and didn't want to get back in it. Remember how I said Linda almost turned around twice before she even crossed the state line? She told me later that the version of retirement she'd been picturing, golf carts, gated entrances, a life that looked good in photos, wasn't actually what she wanted. She just didn't know that until she saw the alternative. That's the thread running through every town on this list. The ones where retirees actually thrive aren't always the ones with the biggest homes or the flashiest marketing. They're the ones that match how a person actually wants to spend their days: walking, fishing, sitting on a porch, being close enough to family without paying a premium for the privilege. None of these towns are perfect. I told you the catches along the way on purpose, because a list that only tells you the good part isn't one you can trust. So here's what I actually want to know. If you've retired, or you're planning to, what's the one thing on your list that no ranking site ever seems to ask about? Not the tax rate, not the square footage, the real thing. Tell me in the comments. I read every one. I'll see you on the next list.